have a TV. They thought we were too poor to have a TV. Well, that was partly true. You know, we didn't want to spend any money, and we didn't have money for a TV. But we didn't want one either. I didn't have time to watch TV while I was going to seminary, and she didn't have time while she's working and helping in the church and stuff. We didn't have time to watch television, and so we didn't get one. And one day at our Bible, we had a Sunday night Bible study, someone actually literally put, without our permission, put a 13-inch black and white TV in the back seat of our car. Okay? Now, they didn't have color TVs during then, but they didn't need that 13-inch black and white for some reason. They put it in our car. So we set it up in our kitchen, and the only time we had available was Sunday afternoon. Every Sunday afternoon we watched Godzilla movies. You wouldn't think someone could get addicted to a Godzilla movie, okay? I was addicted to Godzilla movies. I still like to watch them. They're not on very much, fortunately. You know? So I guess I have one of these addictive personalities. There's a lot of stuff I have to watch out for, you know? I mean, anybody that can become addicted to a 13-inch black and white watching Godzilla movies, that is a seriously ill person. Some of you are seriously ill too, I know. Now, if you have an addiction to a certain kind of food, sweets or chips, those are the biggest addictions, you might have to simply not buy it. I simply can't have ice cream in the house. You know? Yes, I'm weak. Sometimes I will succumb to temptation when I'm going by the ice cream aisle. That's when the decision. Shall I go by the ice cream aisle? Well, there's vegetables on that aisle. And I need vegetables, you know? And so I might have to send Jean down the vegetable aisle. Just tell her what to get, you know? If you're an alcoholic or addicted to candy or cigarettes or pornography, your addiction can be triggered when you're out in society. Your addictions can be triggered in a grocery store. What do they have at the checkout stands? Candy, and magazines of women with skimpy clothes. Two addictions right there. They got them right on the checkout. And there's this association thing I'm talking about. It triggers it. You start thinking about it, okay? It goes and goes and goes, you know? And eventually you say, I gotta have a candy bar. Or if you're addicted to pornography, maybe get on your computer or whatever. You have to guard yourself against that. If you can't go through the checkout stand, you need to send someone to get your stuff that can. Isn't that radical? But I'm saying, when you're sane, think through all this stuff, you know? One strategy is to limit or remove it. The other strategy I'm briefly going to share about today, and I want to talk about that link, that chain of behavior. One thing leads to another. Like Tommy, where he always would eat chips while he's watching television. One guy said whenever he went to the movie theater, he would always buy popcorn. He didn't even like popcorn. He just associated, you know, eating buttered popcorn with being in the movie theater. Beer commercials are always trying to associate a good time with drinking. They spend millions of dollars on behavioral studies to find out what's the most effective way to hook you. And that's how those commercials usually are based around. They're usually based around sex, laughter, having a good time. You're supposed to associate drinking with that kind of stuff. Did you ever see a commercial with a guy throwing up after getting drunk? Maybe Mothers Against Drunk Driving might do that sometime. Did you ever see a commercial of some guy crashing into the road with a bloody head? Or the funeral of a baby, a child that was killed by a drunk driver? No, you're not going to see that kind of commercial. But there's cause and effect there. Dopamine is released when there's immediate reward for the behavior. Things get associated with other things. Cigarettes, food, coffee. Even this connection can even have to do with temper. If you have a habit of blowing your temper, you grew up, maybe you got used to getting your way when you cried as a baby, and you never got beyond that crying, blowing your temper stage. All your life, that's always worked for you, you know? So you got immediate reward or gratification when you blow your temper, you know? There's a chain there. A dog gets certain types of rewards for behavior, and soon that behavior becomes automatic. So sit down and think. Break the link. Think about the things you associate together, that chain of behavior. Find a place to break the link. Take away the reward. It may even mean that you have to break up an unhealthy friendship. If you intend to engage in something destructive when you're with certain people, you need to talk to them about changing that behavior. Let's not drink when we go out to the game, okay? If they won't do that and you've got a problem with alcohol, you may have to limit the time you spend with those friends or find some new friends, because it's a point of weakness for you. This next picture I really love. Oh, no, that's not the right one. It's number 26.
27.
Is it 27? Okay.
Oh.
Now that's a friend, isn't it? Real friend. What if you have an addiction and your friends are not willing to change for you? How much do they really love you? Well, love means we forego our rights to help another person. If that other person won't help you at a point of your weakness or an area where you need them, then I would question whether that person really loves you. You might call them your friend, but if they're not willing to help you at your point of weakness, do they really love you? Certainly, we as Christians should be willing to change our behavior to help someone who has a habit or addiction. In Romans chapter 14, verses 12 through 14, it says, "So then each of us will give an account of ourselves to God. Therefore, let us stop passing judgment on one another. Instead, make up your mind not to put any stumbling block or obstacle in the way of a brother or sister." Interesting, written almost 2,000 years ago, and Paul is saying, our tendency when someone has a problem is to judge them. Isn't it? If you were just stronger, if you were just a better person, you wouldn't do this stuff. But he says what we need to ask ourselves, is there a way that I can help this person? Is there something that I'm doing that is a stumbling block to this person? So instead of sitting back and condemning the person, ask yourself, what can I do to help this person? Now sometimes that means tough love, not putting up with some behavior. Sometimes it means changing our behavior to accommodate a friend with an addiction or a bad habit. Are you willing to give up something to help that other person? For instance, if you and your spouse both smoke cigarettes, and your spouse has decided to quit smoking, consider removing the cigarettes from your house and not smoking around the house, even if you are not at the place where you feel like you want to give up smoking. My dad was addicted to smoking, but I never once saw him smoking. I was told later by my mother after I had found out that he smoked, because one of my friends had seen him smoking in public. I found out from my mother that he smoked behind the barn. And I said, why did he do that? She said, he does not want you ever to see him smoke. Not because he wants to hide it or whatever, but he doesn't want to set up a bad example for you. He doesn't want you to follow in his footsteps. If you really want to change that bad habit, then you're going to need to sit down sometime and spend some time thinking through your habit, how you do it, what it's associated with, and you need to make some changes in how you set up your environment, your life. You need to stop self-tempting yourself. Break that chain in your life. Take responsibility for your life and the decisions that you made instead of blaming everybody else for your habit. And please ask for help. Ask God for help. He loves you. He will help you. He'll give you insight. And ask your friends for help. Sit down and say, is there something you can think of that you could do or that we could do together or that I could do that would help me with this habit? Get some help. Don't be too proud to get help. Lastly, you don't just want to just stay away from bad things. You want to develop good habits to replace the bad. Life can't be all about don't do this, don't do that, don't do that. God never meant for us to live that way. When He created us to have a good life, a wonderful life. He didn't want us to get hurt or to hurt others. So what we have to learn how to replace the bad habits with good habits. And we don't have time to do that today. That's going to be continued 2 weeks from today. How do you replace bad habits with good habits? Continued in 2 weeks.